Let's start the recording and start the webinar. Okay, so this is our informational webinar for the hydrogen economy, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Alan Rossiter. I am Executive Director, External Relations and Educational Program Development for AIChE here at the University of Houston. And I also coordinate this particular program. And so I'd like to say a few words about the upcoming program, a little bit of an overview of what it's about. Actually, let's go to the agenda. Why are we interested in hydrogen? So that we'll talk very briefly about that. Obviously, if you come to the full program, we'll talk a lot more about it, and also talk a little bit about the program structure and cadence for the hydrogen economy program that we'll be delivering starting next month. And then also, as I mentioned to those of you who were on a bit earlier, we'll be introducing some of our instructors and also a student from the last time we ran the program, just to give you a bit more of a flavor of what the program's about. And then we've also got time for Q&A at the end. And by the way, I know there was a little bit of confusion about the duration of this webinar. We plan to get through certainly the formal content of this webinar within half an hour, maybe less actually, ideally. But then we were able to stick around, at least some of us, for longer than that for Q&A, but we will have a hard stop at 11 o'clock if we're still going at that point. My hope and expectation is that it will not be that long, but there is certainly that flexibility for people who want to stay on and talk. On housekeeping, I know we were chatting a little bit in the preamble to this, but if you're not actually a formal presenter, I would ask you at this point to mute yourself and keep your video off. And then we will, if you want to put questions in for later on, please put them in the chat box, and we will deal with them when we get to the Q&A portion of the program. All right. Really what I'd like to do in this slide, and this is just one slide on this topic, the perspective of why hydrogen, why are we interested in hydrogen? And I suppose depending on the time frame, if we were talking about this maybe 20 years ago, the primary reasons would be different, and maybe in 20 years' time, the primary reasons will be different again. But right now, hydrogen is really on the radar of a lot of people because of its applications in decarbonization. And clearly, this is a very important, very high visibility subject at this point in history. Why is hydrogen such an important component or such a hot topic? Well, very simply, most of our energy sources at the moment are hydrogen, are carbon intensive. They have carbon within that energy source. The hydrogen consists of just a single element, i.e. hydrogen. There is no carbon in hydrogen. And so very simplistically, if you wanted to fully decarbonize, simplistically, you would simply say, well, let's burn hydrogen instead of fossil fuels. Now, the reality, as so often is the case, is a lot more nuanced than that. And what I'm showing on the right-hand side of the screen here is actually a diagram that comes from the Department of Energy from their Hydrogen at Scale program. And this shows the hydrogen supply chain, I guess you could call it that, and it sort of overlays it on the existing energy infrastructure. And you'll see here on the left-hand side, we have energy sources that go into the overall energy structure, largely feeding into the grid, but also fuels that can be burned in various applications or used in various applications for heating. And this includes obviously fossil fuels, nuclear, renewables, and you could add in one or two other odds and ends there too, but the primary inputs on the left, and then applications on the right. And so, for example, and we can see the sort of list here, we talk about heating down here, which could be residential, commercial, or industrial heating, but then also things like transportation, and also stationary power. In other words, you need to provide power at a particular location. These are all sort of existing applications for fuels, but they can also be applied or done with hydrogen. And then energy storage, I mentioned, is a big issue. Hydrogen can be stored very conveniently, whereas electricity cannot. And then synthetic fuels. Well, we're making synthetic fuels even now, but hydrogen can be an important input to that. And there are also a number of specific industry applications, like, for example, production of ammonia and other fertilizers, which currently use hydrogen and presumably will in the future as well. So there are a lot of applications of hydrogen shown on the right here, some of which are existing, some of which are evolving. And then in between, there are obviously a lot of connections. So the basic premise of hydrogen going into the future for decarbonization is that if we can find ways to produce it with low carbon intensity, there are lots and lots of ways that we can displace existing energy sources or existing energy processes with hydrogen to decarbonize the economy. So that's very simplistically why we're interested in hydrogen. And for those of you who come on the hydrogen economy program starting in February, we'll obviously delve into that in a lot more detail, but that's a very quick overview. I want to move on to the next topic, which is the structure and cadence of the hydrogen economy program. And so just first of all, in terms of calendar, we kick off with essentially an orientation session on February the 19th, and the program runs through until May 13th. And basically, the program has two major components. Part of it is what we would call asynchronous or recorded content. And this is important for a number of reasons. A lot of our participants in the program of the number of times that we've run it have been from other time zones. All the way around the world, we've had a number of people joining from Asia and Europe in particular. And for them, stuff that's in real time is often difficult. And so having asynchronous or pre-recorded content provides a lot of flexibility. And even for people who are joining from the US, a lot of times people are not available at the time that we're able to actually run the live sessions. So having asynchronous content provides flexibility, even if you're in the same time zone. However, we do believe that it's very important for people who are studying in the program to have access to the instructors. And also the reality of hydrogen is that things are changing very rapidly, and we'll talk a little bit about that even in today's session. And so we do have some real-time or synchronous content in the program, and that consists of sessions that we run generally on Mondays. In fact, I think this time round, at least for the first 3 quarters of the program, everything will be on a Monday evening, 6 till 7 p.m. And so this gives you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have from the asynchronous recordings, the asynchronous material that you've studied, with the actual instructors. And most of the instructors who provided the asynchronous content will be available in real time, at least one time during the duration of the program. I guess I should also mention some of the asynchronous content is also PDFs and other materials that have information on hydrogen that's not covered within the actual recording. So there's a lot of additional material available to you asynchronously in addition to the recorded content. So moving to the bullet points down here, first of all, just a question as to why you might be interested in joining us for the program. And I think for most people who come, it's really a way to jumpstart a career in hydrogen. I mean, a lot of us on this call now, I know, are already in the industry and in the energy industry in some form. And hydrogen is clearly something that's on your radar now, and you want to really jumpstart your career or do a little bit of a pivot in your career to get more into the hydrogen track, because clearly, as I say, it is an exciting area right now, and is very likely to be continuing so for years to come as the energy transition progresses. I'd also like to mention that this is a multidisciplinary program. And so we have instructors who cover the full spectrum from technology to public policy. And if you're looking for a technology deep dive, which I know we usually have a few people who want that, you're very welcome to come, and you'll find a lot of material that's of interest to you. But the actual tech sessions that we run, the live sessions and the asynchronous recordings, do not go very deeply into any technical topic. We have a lot of backup material that is available if that's what you're interested in. But we do cover, as I said, policy, we cover business, we cover technology, but not in the depth that I know some people are looking for. But we do have that there. And if you're looking for an overview that gets you into all the nooks and crannies of the hydrogen space, the hydrogen value chain, this program is for you. It is highly interactive. Which is why, as I said, we make sure that we have these real-time sessions every week. And the faculty that we have, or the instructors that we have, include leaders from industry. And I'm going to introduce you to a couple of those in just a moment, as well as accomplished faculty from the University of Houston. The structure of the program, it consists of 3 different modules, and we often refer to those as badges because we issue digital badges for each of those modules. The first one deals with hydrogen production. The second one, hydrogen transport, safety and use. And I'm not going to go back there. If you think back to that diagram I showed you in the previous, I can go back to it, I guess. Okay, there you go. Yeah. So hydrogen production really looks at the left-hand side of this diagram. And the use cases are generally on the right-hand side. And you got to get from one to the other. So that's the transportation section that we talked about. So first module deals with hydrogen production, second one deals with hydrogen transportation, safety and use, and of course, as for any fuel or any energy source, safety is very important. And then we get the sort of overall evaluation and discussion of commercial opportunities for hydrogen in the third module. And this includes a very important part of our program, which is the capstone project, in which you actually get an opportunity to develop a specific opportunity, an idea for an opportunity for a hydrogen business. And I think pretty much all of our students have found that a very useful way to wrap up the program. And hopefully at this point, we will now have these links in the web, in the chat. So if you're interested in finding out more about the details of the program, there's a link for the website. And then there's also an application form. And one thing I should mention to you here, I've sort of skipped over this detail, or very important detail, but we are running this program jointly between Energy at the University of Houston and also the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. And you'll see that the application link takes you to the AIChE website. So they are running the application and a lot of the logistics for the program. Okay, what I'd now like to do, having rambled all on my lonesome for about 10 minutes, is to stop sharing the screen and to hand you over to one of our instructors who will be able to say a little bit more from her perspective about the program. And Kathy Ayres, I'll hand over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Alan. So I think what you asked for was kind of a brief intro and maybe a little bit of context around my part of the course.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So as you mentioned, I am the Vice President of R&D for Nel Hydrogen. Nel is a company that has been around for quite a number of years producing commercial electrolyzers, starting in the 1920s with the original Norwegian branch, which makes alkaline, and then acquiring the facility I'm at, which is Proton Energy Systems, which has been around on its own for about 27 years. I've been here 16 years. I have an electrochemistry background, actually started in batteries, so I've moved from batteries to hydrogen. And the part of the course that Olga Marina, who's not on the call, co-teach is really about background on both high temperature and low temperature electrolyzers, the commercial realm, especially that low temperatures have already played, and a little bit about why the technology is where it is and the potential it has for making the targets that it needs to get to for some of the applications that Alan talked about. So my focus is really on the history of low temperature electrolysis and then future opportunities in liquid alkaline, proton exchange membrane, and anion exchange membrane electrolyzers. And then Olga covers the high temperature part as a solid oxide expert.
So I did mention that some of our instructors are very have detailed knowledge on the technology side, and Kathy is one of those, as you will imagine, as a VP of R&D, and an excellent asset to our program. So she and she mentioned Olga together really covered that electrolysis space probably better than any other pair of people out there. So Kathy, thank you so much for your contribution to the program overall and for sharing your time now with this group. And I'll hand over to another colleague of ours, more locally here in Houston, Andy Steinhubel. Andy is another instructor. And Andy, if you'd like to go ahead and just say a few words.
Thank you, Alan, and good morning, everyone. And as Alan said, some of the instructors have deep technical knowledge, and some of them are not in that category, and that would be me. I spent my career as a management consultant, primarily with McKinsey, the last several years with KPMG, where I led the energy strategy practice, and that led to some work in hydrogen in collaboration with the University of Houston and as part of the Center for Houston's Future. The Center for Houston's Future is an affiliate of the Greater Houston Partnership and looks at 10-year out type issues important to Houston's economic and infrastructure and demographic development. So we had embarked on low carbon leadership for Houston in 2019. And as I mentioned, U of H was also emphasizing that. And so we teamed up for a series of initiatives, CCUS, hydrogen, the grid of the future, and the circular economy, and developed a vision for the role of hydrogen in the greater Houston energy system. And turning to role in the program, that is one of the topics in the program, what hydrogen's role in the Houston energy system might look like. So that's one piece that I'll come back and be happy to answer questions on. I also serve on the board of Green Hydrogen International, which is a green hydrogen project developer. We have an initial project we're emphasizing in the Corpus Christi area with behind the meter renewables, wind and solar, and alkaline electrolysis, and it's targeting export markets. There's a second session that I join up with the CEO of GHI, talk a little bit about the company, the value proposition, progress, and we'll answer questions on that. And then thirdly, the capstone projects that Alan mentioned. So the course, as Alan laid out in the modules, I think is very well done and done in a building block fashion. So you kind of work from how does hydrogen fit into the energy transition all the way through the value chain and each part of the value chain, and then move to commercial applications of hydrogen. So that's where the GHI part fits in. And then the very end of the class is an opportunity for participants to team up and to develop some thoughts and share some thoughts on commercial applications of hydrogen. So there's what Alan and Joe referred to as the Shark Tank. So I participate in that as well. So I hope you'll consider the program. I think it's very well done and kind of takes you from 0 to 60 in how many short weeks, Alan? 6 or 8 or?
Well, yeah, it depends what you count. We take a few breaks along the way, but basically 9 weeks of program, but with some breaks.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you so much, Andy. Appreciate that. Yeah. And I did notice a couple of the other instructors are on the call. So Nick, would you like to say a few words? I see you're there. You don't have to, but I saw you were on the call, so I thought I'd call on you.
Sure. Thanks, Alan. Welcome, everybody. It's good to be a part of this year's session. I'm Nick Barillo. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Hydrogen Safety. I also manage the Hydrogen Safety Program at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. Fire protection engineer by training and more than maybe 19 years in working on hydrogen safety. Hydrogen safety, we'll go over the fundamentals on that and have some great discussions. What I really encourage you to do, though, is as you go through that session, come up with your own questions. Like to really dig into some of those questions afterwards. I can only really provide you some basics and fundamentals, and so the deeper questions you may have, I'll be happy to jump into those and see if we can get those answered for you. So looking forward to interacting with you in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and Nick in the hydrogen safety space is the go-to guy, I have to say, and he's also well connected with the Center for Hydrogen Safety and the Hydrogen Safety Council, is that what they call it? I forget the name.
Panel.
Hydrogen Safety Panel, right? So if you've got any hydrogen safety questions, Nick, yeah, you're going to get inundated now, but Nick is your guy.
Thanks, Alan.
And I saw that my colleague at UH, Chuck McConnell, also on the call. Chuck, did you want to say a few words?
Well, sure, Alan. Again, pleasure to be invited back. And maybe just a little bit about myself. I spent 32 years running global businesses for an industrial gas company called Praxair, now part of Linde globally. Part of that stint during my career was running the global hydrogen business for Praxair. I think the words that come along with the energy transition, et cetera, really speak to the fact that we need more energy and lots fewer emissions of CO2. And that's really the driving factor behind hydrogen. But there have been a number of steps along the way, and we'll be covering that in the course of the class. I also had the good fortune of serving as the Assistant Secretary of Energy at the U.S. Department of Energy for several years. And then as part of that, came to the University of Houston, and I'm currently the executive director of our Center for Carbon Management in Energy. And of course, hydrogen is a big part of that. And again, going back to those fundamentals, what I'll stress and continue to stress throughout this class for all of you is that every time ideas and thoughts about new and emerging technologies challenge us, we have to think about three things. One is the scale and the volumes of hydrogen that we're talking about in the US today, 13 billion cubic feet a day. And that might sound like a lot, but projections are that it'll be 5x to 10x in the next 30 to 40 years. So we got to think about scale. We have to think about cost and the importance of cost to be able to realize all the things that were on Alan's chart here. And we'll talk about that in great detail. And then we'll talk about markets and the markets that consume that hydrogen, the markets that will consume that hydrogen in the future, and answering all the time, can it be done? And more importantly, should it be done in terms of scale and cost? So Alan, always a pleasure to be with you. Looking forward to it.
Always good to get your input, Chuck. Thanks so much. I don't see any of the other instructors on the call. If there are any there, then just if you could hold a moment. But I do want to introduce someone else now, and that is Lynn Lyon, just to give you a slightly different perspective on the program. Lynn was one of the students the last time we ran the program. And so Lynn, if you could just share some of your perspectives, please.
Sure. Thank you, Alan. I felt very fortunate to attend. I saw something about it on LinkedIn and it kind of captured my attention. I am privileged to represent U.S. Energy. We're a 70-year-old energy and transportation company, privately owned, based in Wisconsin. And we focus on managing the molecule. So we do work with refined products as well as renewable natural gas, and we're getting into hydrogen. And I think as somebody who's been in the energy industry for a while, I like to get close to people that are trying to have these conversations and figure these things out. Like Chuck was just asking, can it be done? Should it be done? I like to be part of those conversations. So I really appreciated the exceptional instructors you have. You've got Kathy, Andy, Nick, Chuck here. These guys are really the industry leaders on this. So I think it's very a unique opportunity as the technology is changing right now as we speak, as the policies and are driving the markets. It's very unique experience to get to participate in these classes from production all the way from the safety to the capstone project. I really enjoyed the capstone project. We're doing a similar kind of project at my company right now. So it's kind of fun to talk about, this commercial scenario that's not real and look at what you're really talking about with our current customers, with some of the offtake that we're trying to do with future projects. I'll just give you one last example of how this kind of all plays together for me. I went to one of the events in AIChE around carbon capture and hydrogen production about 1.5 years ago, and they talk about the production side of the business really well. And anyone from coal country or anybody, you know, in Texas that's producing oil and gas as well, they're very comfortable talking about production. But when it comes to talking about consumption, when you get to the point where you're like, what are you going to use the hydrogen for? It almost felt like somebody took a crayon and drew a truck, you know? So that part of the equation is so important. So that was what interested me most, is the commercial part of this class. But the things that I learned on the production and the safety are extremely valuable.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Much appreciated for that perspective. So just I sort of skimmed over the attendee list. Are there any other instructors out there that I missed? Because that usually happens to me. I look straight past people. Okay, hearing none, I guess we can go over to Q&A. And I do see in the chat, and I see that some of these have already been addressed. But there was something I did want to follow up on. Yeah, there was a question from Dylan, and I see you've already had the office hours issue addressed, and thanks, Kathy, for dealing with that. On the so just to address that, we don't have formal office hours, but certainly, you know, we often field individual questions from course participants and try to pass them along to the appropriate experts to deal with. So that's the short answer to that. The other question you had there was about confidentiality or IP issues related to the capstone project. The short answer to that is, if it's in the capstone project, make sure you do not use confidential information, because it will effectively become in public domain. So if it's not already patented, and if you want to keep it confidential, then don't put it into your capstone project. But as Lynn pointed out, it gives you an opportunity to actually experience how these sort of business cases are developed in a sort of safe environment. And I know some of the people who have done capstone projects have subsequently looked at launching them as commercial activities. Not sure if any of them have actually got them in production yet or in operation yet, but a number I know have turned them into commercial pitches. Slides being shared. We can do that. I have to think about how to do it. So that's, yes, Daniela, I see your question about sharing the slides from today's meeting. I can see if I can find a way to make them available, and certainly send them to you if you want them. On the question about AIChE fundamental hydrogen safety credentials, this program does not deal with that, does not deliver that. We provide our own credentialing through the digital badges from University of Houston, and AIChE also provides their own separate credentialing for this hydrogen economy program. Nick, if you're still on the call, can you talk about the fundamental hydrogen safety credential?
Yeah, the credential is available through the AIChE Academy. It consists of 9 approximately 1-hour courses. If you make it through those courses and pass those courses, then there's an exam. It's a separate fee for all that, so it's not a part of this activity. And if you'd like, I'll try to get you that link before the end of this, so you can go into that and see what that's all about. Great.
Thanks so much, Nick. Next question was, how many cohorts do we plan this year? The current expectation is that we will do this spring cohort starting in February, and like I say, it actually runs over about a 3-month period from February 19th to early to mid-May. And then the expectation at this point is that we will also run a full program. So essentially the cadence that we currently have is twice per year. Not guaranteed, but that's the expectation. Okay, thanks, Nick. I see you've got that in the chat there for the hydrogen safety credential. Any other questions? One more question. Okay, question for you again, Nick. Can you see that there? I mean, I think.
All right, let me take a look at it.
Yeah.
There's significant difference between what is taught in the program regarding hydrogen safety versus the AIChE program. Like, is one more in depth than the other? Yes.
Yes.
You're getting about 9 hours of training versus one, which is a 1.5 or 2 here. I think we're actually 2 hours, but
Here we are too. Yeah.
it goes into a deeper depth. It also challenges you on your knowledge retention of those principles. So, and then you have that if you decide to go the credential route, you have that credential to help demonstrate your knowledge on the fundamentals. So it is a bit different. This program is a bit more covering a lot of different topics than safety is woven into that. That is really focused heavily on fundamental safety, hydrogen safety principles.
Right. Thanks, Nick.
Hey,
And
Alan,
it looks like, is there one more? So if that next one by Charles is relative to the credential, I put the link in there for where the credential is. And of course, this could be available from there as well. So,
Was somebody else commenting there?
Alan,
yeah, I saw that right under the previous question.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Chuck, yeah.
I was just going to mention that this may be a platform with the students that are at least here interested in this program. Maybe say a word or two about the other programs that the University of Houston has that are available to people, because many of these topics are interrelated. Yeah,
good point. And just picking up before I get to that, Charles had put the question there about the cost of courses. So I'm not sure if you refer, as Nick said, where you're talking about the hydrogen safety credential or the hydrogen economy program. Information on the hydrogen economy program, the link was put in the chat a bit earlier, but just to talk about that for a moment, it's structured in these 3 separate modules. The majority of people sign up for the whole course, and if you do that, then your cost is $2,970, and the individual badges or individual modules are $1,100 each. So if you follow that link, then you'll see it. That was posted earlier. To Chuck's comment, I think the one program that is most closely related to the hydrogen economy that we run out of the University of Houston, surprisingly enough, is the CCUS Executive Education Program. And that actually, Chuck, I think that one I'll pass back to you. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Well, thanks, Alan.
Bit of a lead in here, right?
Bit of a leading question, but thank you for the opportunity. Yeah. A big part of the energy transition, obviously carbon management, and an essential technology, CCUS, which does actually link considerably to this whole hydrogen economy discussion as well. But in that class, we in a similar way have an online offering that's self-paced, that spans between 8 and 12 weeks. It's taught by exclusively industry experts that are globally recognized in the industry across the board. And we go through the fundamentals of the value chain: capture, transportation, storage, but also get into the legal implications, project management, and project financing issues. And we look at the whole macro issue of CO2, carbon management, and different technologies and solution pathways. So it's really about the techno-economics of the whole issues around CCUS, the competitive alternatives, and then some of the other issues that are, of course, associated with it in terms of risk, permitting, environmental responsibilities, et cetera. So if you're interested in carbon capture, utilization, and storage, and you want to go to use Andy's terminology, from 0 to 60 very rapidly, this would be the course for you in terms of being able to connect with a lot of industry experts. In a similar way, we also use interactive moments during our sessions, and we also have an in-person session that we have at the end of it for networking opportunities as well, because many people are getting into this new space and looking at new opportunities. So would encourage you to take a look at that and others that we have in our cadre of offerings that Alan's responsible for.
Thanks, Jack. Just put the burden on me. That's right. Yeah, actually, on that topic, let me just go back to a page I was going to share with you guys. Yeah, so Let's share this on screen if I can. So, and Mei, perhaps you can put this link in the chat as well, but this is our micro-credential hub. And this shows all of the programs that AIChE offers. Now, the University of Houston as a whole offers a lot of different programs, but the AIChE programs that I'm essentially responsible for are mostly really oriented at what you might call upskilling or reskilling or professional development, however you want to describe them. And they're generally structured as micro-credentials, which is essentially online digital badges and generally relatively small segments. So you're not doing a full semester course, you're doing smaller increments. And these cover quite a wide range of topics. We have some activities in AI and robotics for energy integrity, elastomers. These are sort of not specific energy transition topics so much as the upstream energy data analytics, another area, but then the CCUS program that Chuck talked about. We do have a number of data analytics programs, so you'll see that upstream energy data analytics for the process industries. We do have a short introductory program on sustainable energy development, and this one, the one that we're currently offering, is entirely asynchronous. In other words, there's no live component, although we do have some office hours built into that as well. The hydrogen economy we talked about, ESG and energy, another analytics program, data analytics and machine learning in energy, and then another robotics program. So there are several different programs that are listed then on our hub. And the overall focus is energy transition with some focus also in data analytics and related topics. Okay, other questions? Just put that link in the chat in case anyone needs it. Oops. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Well, that's good. My hope was that we would do this in about half an hour, but we had some flexibility. It looks like we've slightly overrun our half hour, but we're well under our full hour, so I will give you back about 25 minutes of your day. But thank you everyone for joining us. I think it's been a very interesting from my side. I hope interesting from yours as well. Many thanks to our instructors who joined us and to Lynn for presenting on behalf of the consumers of this program in the past. Much appreciate all of your input, and thank you to everyone who joined us. So with that, I will bid you all a good day and hope to see you in the program later. Bye.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks for coming. Bye.